Hi, gentlemen. Welcome back to the Mind of Christ for Men. It's a three-part conversation with Chris Mann and myself, Dominic from Team Heroic Men. Hi, Chris. Welcome back.
Hey, great to see you, as always.
So our third part of this conversation is a very Avengers Assemble theme, because the first two episodes talked about we have an identity as a son of the Father, and then that son of the Father is active in the world and is able to do things in the world that is different or better than he expects. Then comes the third part, which is, well, you're going to go it alone? Is that even a good idea? You're going to John Wick your way through life? Some men can do that. But even John Wick builds up a team, and that's kind of the point. Brothers are meant to build brotherhoods. Christ capped it at 12. Each one of them ministered to about 100 disciples, and each one of those disciples outreached to however many. Like we're talking big numbers really quickly here. So in terms of levels of impact, that's kind of why our Heroic Men mission is about, okay, you start really small, you gather a core brotherhood, a core group of friends to start living out these big ideas that we're talking about that are so simple, but you kind of have to sit down for like an hour just to start thinking them through and realize this is really powerful stuff. The mind of Christ is not some kind of a summa theologica, dense academic sort of thing. It's something very simple, and it's very direct, and it ends up being very heroic in how we go about trying to solve problems and do good and be the best men that we're called to be for ourselves, for our families, for our parishes, our churches, our community, and then for the culture at large. So this conversation is about assembling a team. Could be your family, but mostly we're talking about your brotherhood, the men who form your shield wall, the men who are going to carry your, what do you call it, coffin. Who are the men, the 12, tried and true, faithful and true, that you trust most to carry you to your rest? There's a thought. Do you have any? Well, there's a lot of men who don't. So this conversation is not really, people are not probably watching this conversation who have nobody, who are not showing up to church at all, who have no sense of this idea that we've got an identity in Christ, we're a son of the Father. Those are not really the men watching this. The ones who are watching this are men kind of like you and I, Chris, where we're like, okay, we're convicted of this, but we don't know what to do. This makes sense. This is kind of exciting. What other levels of thinking should be incorporated in this? What do we need to clean out between our ears so that we can go to work strengthening and helping other men? Well, invariably, as we're watching the movies of anybody we love, you think of Maximus, right? Maximus in Gladiator forms a team of friends to help him overcome the challenges, because one person by themselves just can't accomplish everything together. So if you're starting a brotherhood in a parish, you're mustering a group of men together to start living out what we're talking about together. That's the best chance you've got to actually make a dent in what you're trying to accomplish. Try to go it alone. We've all seen our New Year's resolutions. 3 weeks if you're good, 3 days if you're average. Right? Whereas if you do it with the accountability of a group of other guys, cheering each other on, checking in with each other, you got a chance to actually make it longer than 3 days or 3 weeks. So what are some initial thoughts? Where do we want to go with this, Chris?
Yeah, I think the first thing to remember when you think about the very first problem, the fall, right? What was Adam doing? What was happening for Adam, right? And it's kind of two things, right? One, and they're related, but isolation and inactivity, passivity, right? Scripture says once eats the apple, she turns and hands it to Adam, who was there with her, right? She wasn't wandering on her own. He's right there. And what does he do? Nothing, right? Eve's having a conversation. I better not interrupt, right? I don't want to get involved. Well, I don't know what was going through his head at the time, right? But he does nothing. He doesn't speak up. He doesn't fight the serpent. He's just there. And so I think when we talk about, like you said, going from our identity as sons to then living in the world, but then looking at the relationships around us, the team that we build, the one thing that we cannot be is passive. And I think that sort of flies in the face of the culture, just that statement itself, right? Because the cultural message to men is you do too much, you're too aggressive, you're too active, right? Certainly there are wrong actions, but the problem is not the activity, right? Men have to be active. So I think that's the first thing for us to recognize about ourselves is that we've got to take a step, right? If we just stand there and wait to be rescued, we're not really living out our call. Now, again, that's not to criticize the guy who's on his last legs, who's bleeding out, who just needs to be rescued, right? I don't want to go,
Right.
I don't want anyone to think
Right.
that. that that's where this is going. But as a basically healthy person, right, I can't go to church and just kind of look around and see what's happening. It's my call as a man. It's my call as someone who is intended to be active in the world and to be active in a relationship, to reach out, to say, hey, is this happening? Are there people doing this, right? Whatever needs I feel, I shouldn't just hope someone's going to swoop in and say, oh, by the way, I maybe had a feeling that you needed this and here it is for. No, you got to ask. You got to instigate, right? Even if it's as awkward as going up to some guy you've never met and just saying, hey, I'm Chris. Seen you here a few times before. What's your name? What do you do? And start that conversation. Because it's that activity, it's that effort that I think that we are fundamentally called to, right? And as you have observed before, you know, it's pretty natural in some ways, or it seems that way from the outside, right? Put a mixed group together, like you're going to get pods of girls talking to each other, right? And then you're maybe going to get, two or three guys talking about sports or something here and there, but guys are much more inclined to hang out on their own. Some of that's probably nature, some of that's probably cultural conditioning. I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it, but I think that's our great temptation, and that's our great task, right? That temptation to sit back, to be passive, to be silent. It's the same temptation. It's been working for, however many thousands of years the planet's been spinning. Our call then is to be proactive. It's to take the stand and to actually do something.
Right. I like that phrase that you've been saying, to take a step, take a stand. I actually think that works really nicely. If we put it into like 3, and maybe this sort of structures our conversation. Take a stand for something, and then take a step for that thing. Take a step forward, take a stand, take a step, tell a story. That invites other people, especially other men, in. I think it's very true. A lot of women will talk. What is it? Women talk face to face. Men talk shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah, I've heard that.
We do stuff together. We solve problems together. I'm trying to think back when I would engage with, the young men or other men at my local parish. And like you say, we would get together after Sunday Mass, and there's like nothing really to talk about. There's the usual political moaning. There's like, oh, they swapped out the parish priest, or there's a new thing coming up, or there wasn't ever really anything interesting to do because none of the men were actually trying to do anything. They weren't taking a stand for something. There's a lot of men who will take stands for things, and they will moan and complain and get mad and whatever, and you will always know their opinion on everything. Then are they actually taking a step to do anything about it? It's really, really easy for us to take a stand for things that we will never do anything about.
Yes.
Okay, honestly, that is the easiest stand to take. It's a easy moral stance to take. So then the next step is, okay, what are you going to do about it? Now, not everybody can, and not everybody's supposed to get all involved in like massive culture initiating things. It's part of the mission for heroic men. Right, as with our ministry, with what we're doing, is don't try to go save the world. Turn around and focus on your parish. So I like the scene from Zorro, right, with Antonio Banderas, and he's got one mission: I got to kill Capitan Love. And then the Diego goes and draws the 2 circles in the sand. Says, stand in the middle. This is your world. There is nothing outside the circle. He goes, but what about Capitan? There is nothing outside the circle. You are focused here. And then once that is handled, then you can start thinking about your spheres of influence and moving out. And everything further out gets less and less of your attention because you literally have no influence, no impact on it. And so with us, we've got ourselves. That's right in the middle. There's ourselves. There's our immediate family. There's our parish, community. And then there's everything else. Probably our business is right in there with the parish and so on. So in terms of our sphere of influence with heroic men, we're committed to the sense that when you're building up a brotherhood, you start praying for a group of men. Pick the 3, pick the 5. Those are your friends. That's your honor guard, your shield wall. Invite them to pray for you too, and start praying for other men, and then start going to work at your parish. Now, what we don't want is, okay, we're all going to get together, we're going to watch a movie, we're going to complain about some position in politics or some position in church politics, and we all get really mad and hot under the collar, and then we go home, and it's Monday as usual, and then nothing ever changes. Okay, we've taken a stand, obviously. That's taken stands. Is it the right stand? There's a question. We got to be able to take a step towards something. That's why I love what we're doing with heroic men, because we have to take a step towards doing things that build up the men in our parish. So if we were to think a little bit more of a brotherhood group at a parish, a bit more like an AA meeting, we need a place where men can get together, where they don't feel atomized and and isolated and alone. And okay, we'll have a short conversation, maybe we'll watch something, but the goal is, what are you struggling with? It makes sense to me as a sort of a little thing. It's like every week you pitch a different topic. If we're getting together every Saturday or every Wednesday evening, okay, this is family week. What's going on with all of our families? Let's talk about that. Next week, this is work. We're going to talk all about work. Week after that, as a man, how are you doing as a man? Week after that, prayer or something, or the world, or your hobbies. What are your hobbies? What are you doing like at all that makes you feel alive? Then when that's done, that month is over, cycle it again. Families, work, you as a man, your hobbies. Those kinds of things start getting men to focus on building each other up, talking about things, thinking about things that we can do to activate and inspire the men at the parish, and not feel like, oh, we're all trying to be holy, inspirational men. It's like, no, just try to be real men building each other up together. And that's starting a new story.
And I think with that, I mean, I think it even starts a step back. And I'm thinking of a reflection that a deacon gave talking about homelessness. I mean, I think every major metropolitan area obviously has that issue to some degree. And basically what he said, and he was extremely passionate about it, was the only thing you cannot do as a Christian in the face of a homeless person is nothing. You can't do nothing. Right? Because somebody had said, well, I'm supposed to hand out, money to every single person I see on the street, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that. And his answer was, we got to do something. You can't do nothing. Maybe it is the $5 you've got in your pocket. If you don't have money in your pocket, fine. That doesn't absolve you from the fact that you're face to face with a fellow human being in need. You have to do something, even if it's as simple or seemingly easy as a prayer, right? But you have to do something. And so I think the first step, like you said, the very center of that circle is me, right? And so whether it's at mass, whether it's at work, wherever it might be, when I see somebody, a fellow brother in Christ, or just a guy, I have to do something, right? Again, even if it's just that quick prayer, we condition ourselves to take that active role, right? And I think as we do so, then that opens us up to the point where it's, hey, yeah, let's sit down and talk about something a little bit more than the sports game. I think you're right on it that you need to focus those conversations on things that matter. The way that I look at it, because a lot of times people, oh, where are you struggling with this? Where are you struggling with that? And guys are like, well, listen, I don't need therapy. If I needed therapy, I'd go see a therapist. It's like, okay, yes, thank you. That's not what we're doing here.
I get Father for 10 minutes every 6 months. I'm good in the confessional. Okay, I don't need you.
Right. But I think the key where those conversations really hit is it's where are we being stretched, right? And obviously suffering has a tendency to stretch us, right? Otherwise it wouldn't feel like suffering. But it could just as much be a stretch in a passionate way. Hey, so-and-so's, going to be retiring in 6 months and I really want their position at work. So I'm really pushing myself to, position myself well, or to learn this, that, or the other thing. Like, where are you stretching, right? And again, it's that same concept of I can't do nothing, right? Because kind of sitting on the couch watching the basketball game, it's kind of nothing, right? Like, yeah, my emotions might get aroused, it might be exciting, it might feel like something, but the reality is if I miss that game, how vastly different is my life going to be? For most of us, practically nothing, right? Regardless of how excited we feel about it. And so I think it's the same way with when you do have a conversation with another man or with a group, there is a need to get beyond the things that don't matter, because that's essentially inactivity, right? How's work? Work was great. I'm going to, complain about the TPS reports in the printer. Great. What difference did that make for you? Right? Versus, I really want a promotion, or maybe something bad is happening, or maybe, whatever. Hey, my best friend at work just got reassigned to a different department. Okay, great. Now we're talking about something that's actually moving you in a meaningful way. And that's where you need the support, right? It's like a tug of war. If you're just playing against air, you're not really doing anything at that point. You need enough resistance. You need enough opportunity that someone has to pull with you. Those are the things that make good conversation and that forge brotherhood.
I think that there's a lot of fantastic content on the Heroic Men platform that men can, tap into. But I think one of the best things that's about it is that you can straight up steal some of the questions that we ask each other. Like the questions that's like, for example, I get privileged, right, to run the Heroic Stories show. And I just have 4 questions that I spam every episode on every guest. every conversation is fantastic. And we both of us sort of walk into this conversation going, I don't know who you are and I don't know where this is going. And then very quickly, it just feels so instantly disarming to be asking the questions that we ask on that show. Like, who are your heroes? Who do you want to be a hero for? Why did that matter to you? What's going on in your life, or what was going on at the time? Something like that. These are just basic questions, that guys ask each other. So we got to, okay. So if we're thinking about this from the level, and you've got a list of fantastic, verses from scripture that help us ground this. And so we'll get to that here in a second. But we're talking about, again, thinking about what does Christ do, the mind of Christ, right? If we're trying to copy that, how do we do that practically without it feeling all academic? And I think if we look at how he acted, okay, he got up and he pitched a really bold story. Within like 5 minutes out the gate, he's getting up in front of the synagogue and he's going, the scriptures are fulfilled before your eyes. Game's up. You don't have to wait anymore. It's here. Closes it. And he sits down and they freak out and want to throw him off a cliff. Okay. So he just outlined an entirely new kingdom and a story and a plan. I'm going to suspect that news traveled like wildfire. I'm guessing that wherever he showed up, miracles happen. Like we're fresh off the miracle of Cana, water turning into wine. I don't know about you. I'm betting first century, Israel, that's like wildfire. Like, you see what this guy can do? So you get someone like that, showing up on a pier and looking at a bunch of fishermen going, I've got a new job for you. You interested? And they're looking at a man's man. Okay. He's a sunburned kind of guy. He's walking on, he's doing a lot of walking. He's probably got big hands. He's probably very strongly put together from a lifetime hard labor. And they know, like, well, at least we get free wine, right? And he goes, I've got a new job for you. Are you in? And you're going to do stuff. And we're going to hang out together. And it's basically campfires and bros for the next 3 years. Like, I won't lie, I would join that. I'd be in on that. A chance to do something good in the world because the world is collapsing around them and feeling impossible. And nobody knows, how to fix anything. And it feels oppressive. And, there's not enough of anything or whatever. And he shows up going, you don't have to worry about basically all of this. It's all taken care of. It's more important that you recognize you've got a capacity to do something that the world absolutely needs. So again, he's taking a stand for something bold and interesting. And that's kind of what we think about with heroic men. So we've got this idea, like the soul of a man is a hero. I'm convicted by this, right? Now, not everybody's activating it. Not everybody's doing anything about it. Sometimes we're couch potatoing our way through everything. But you think about our favorite movies about good men trying to do the best that they can in the world. Invariably, they're weak, they're broken, they're not all there. And then something challenges or shows up and goes, you have a chance to do something. And it could be conversation like listening to this podcast or meeting somebody at your local parish who goes, hey, I want to start a men's group. I think there's a bunch of men in this parish that we've never met or talked to. We could do really cool stuff. Maybe we just start as a weekly conversation. Maybe we have a beer and axe throwing night, once a quarter, get all the guys together. Let's find out who's in this parish. Because if we want to do really interesting things, well, you got to know who's on your team. If you want to build a team to get anything done. So let's assemble these Avengers. Let's bring the men together and see who's there. And okay, half of the men don't want to do anything. Half of them just want the fun. Half will never stop talking. And, half just don't want to talk at all. Okay, so you need to then gather, okay, we need a core group of men, especially if you're starting a brotherhood, or even if you're just simply starting friends and you're trying to gather men to be friends. You don't have any, but you're the kind of guy who's got a little extra in the tank. So walking up, like you say, walking up to someone at the parish, like, I think I've seen you before, or hey, I have never seen you before. Who are you? What do you do? What's your origin story, right? Or how was work? Ooh, that sounds tough, right? And if somebody's not answering, or they're like giving you just micro answers because they don't really know or they're not sure, a lot of us men are like that.
Yep.
Cut it short. Be like, well, if you ever have anything you want me to pray for, I'm here. Or we're running a men's group. We're doing axe throwing in about 2 weeks. You should come. You look like somebody who'd enjoy that. Something, right?
Yeah.
And then let it go. Don't try to get a win out of the moment. I think it takes an act of bravery to initiate a friendship. But we already know no hero ever survived alone. You will not survive the next 30 years of your life alone. You need friends. You need brothers. You need men. And if you're convicted that the idea that the men at your parish are your immediate mission field, and if you can build them up, not only will you learn and get stronger, you'll build up their families. Parish becomes a better place for all of us together. And then comes the moment where you have like something horrible in your life, right? Car crash or an accident or a failure or a loss or something. you'll have a shield wall to turn to. You'll have friends that you can start turning to.
We keep saying take a stand, and I think that that's an understated phrase, right? I mean, what does that really mean, right? It's military in origin, right? And it means this is the ground that we're holding, right? So there's that sense again, even then, of that's the first action, right? To have identified that this is a place where I need to be. This is a place where there's work for me to do. There's a lot of guys who just don't know. You know, you say, "Hey, are you ready to take a stand?" They're gonna shrug and say, For what?" Right? Like,
Yeah.
they don't even have a sense of the battlefield, right? Much less their place on it, right? And I get a little bit leery of over militarizing, the faith, but there is a place that you are called to be, right? Whether you conceive of it as a battle, whether you conceive it as answering a call, however you conceive of it, God has something for you, right?
Well, isn't it like, is it scouting methodology or terminology or whatever to like leave a place better than you found it?
Yes.
So it's like if you're joining like a parish, like, okay, I'm going to be here for 2 years. I'm going to be here for another 5 years. And this is my parish. This is now my home base. So to then take a look around, the first 3, 4 Sundays and go, how do I leave this place better than I found it? Who do I talk to? Father, who are the powers? Who are the movers and shakers? Are there any men's groups? Anything? Oh, there's nothing going on. Well, who's the guy that you turn to when you want something done? Who's the mover and shaker? Who should I be talking to? Who should I meet? I want to do something, you know, and you can sort of stick in your back pocket the No Man Left Behind, copy of that book. It's got a little nice playbook for how to get stuff done. But even before talking about all of that, that level of stuff, it's like you're convicted that you've got something and that you're called to do something. I love that vision of, yeah, leave a place better than you found it.
And I think it's also a paradox in that it's hard, but it's not hard. I think it's so easy. I do this, use an example. I do this with books all the time, right? So I usually have something that's like meaty, right? Like the lives of the saints or something philosophical or whatever. And then I'll usually have some kind of like candy book is what I call it, right? Like just a fantasy, like just a fun story, right? And I tell myself at the end of the day, it's like, okay, I've got some time. What am I going to do? It's like, oh, well, I'm tired. I don't know if I can really think about philosophy. I don't know if I can really read the lives of the saints and engage it, quote unquote, like I should. Well, the reality is there's not a bad time to read the lives of the saints, right? Like, even if I am not at my mentally sharpest, even if I am not picking up on deep and resonating themes, is it ever bad for for our minds to dwell on the saints? No, it is absolutely a trap of the enemy trying to get me not to do the best thing, right? He's like, it seems really hard. You should just do this, right? And I think that's for a lot of guys, as you look at parish life or as you look at, again, even reaching out to a guy and introducing yourself, like, I think the enemy tries to make it seem like this huge thing. Oh my gosh, what if I introduce myself and he's having a terrible week? Oh my gosh, then what do I? Nothing. Nobody expects you to fix that guy's week. He's not sitting there like, well, I'm only going to talk to this guy if he's going to fix all my problems. No, it's ridiculous, right? But in the moment, that's what it feels like. Oh, then we're going to be friends. Are we going to have to be friends? Am I going to have to invite him over for dinner? Am I going to have to go to their house for dinner? What if I don't like his wife? What if I don't like his kids? What if his kids finally like it, right? Like, there's just this avalanche of pressure and it's all garbage. And so like I said, I mean, there is a certain amount of difficulty, but the difficulty is not usually the action itself. It's getting the rest of the crap out of the way so you can just shake your guy's hand and find out what his name is. That's progress. That's that one step that you're talking about, right? Once you've made that stand and said, listen, I'm not just going to accept this. Okay, great. I'm going to introduce myself to this guy. That's the thing.
So taking that stand is not like, printing out flyers and passing them out in the vestibule and trying to make a big deal about yourself and your ideas. That's not what it is. It's about taking a stand means are you convicted enough about what you believe to actually do anything, to actually believe it at all? Already that puts you in the top 1% of like all the men out there because most of us are burned out, struggling. So if you're the kind of person who's got that 1% ability to take a stand and then take a step, which would be simple as crossing the vestibule and saying hi to somebody, or starting a men's group, or starting a brotherhood evening, or whatever it is, or we're going to watch a movie together, and I'm going to be really annoying and poke you on that, reading saints or watching movies or reading a fiction book, right? Now, okay, I love movies and fiction. I think there's a lot to be said for men filling ourselves up on a lot of movies about all kinds of heroic figures. It's also a bit of a cheat code for walking up to a guy and going, hey, have you seen the latest movie of whatever it is? movies and books and stories, like almost all of us are into them, or sports games. Did you see how that person acted? I think is an awesome example of a human being, or he's a great example of a man, or whatever, or he's a really pathetic example of a man. And we should never be like that. But where I'm trying to go with this is I remember once learning about, oh gosh, I'm going to totally forget the name of this religious order during the Middle Ages. Is it the Carthusians? I can't remember. But there was a specific order that decided that, okay, we've got missionary orders that go into past frontiers and try to convert the Germanic Viking peoples and then just get butchered and murdered for it. And they're fantastic. And then you've got sort of mendicant friars that sort of travel around constantly nourishing areas and just sort of bringing the gospel and reviving and so on. But then there's other groups of people who go, you know what? No matter what happens, I'm dedicating and committing myself to literally this plot of land inside these hills with these trees and these people, and I'm not going anywhere. 100% dedicating myself to here. I need to be a lightning rod of grace, goodness, God's action, like whatever. I'm deliberately going to make myself conduit or a channel or somebody trying to do the best good that I can and leave this place better than I found it here. I think that is an idea. First of all, it transformed, I think, Christianity across Europe, and it created a fantastic like anchor points for the kingdom where around these monasteries they would build these fantastic walls, mini walled cities, right? The villages would have places to hide, and they would sort of probably become like castles as well. Villages would then gather around these, and they would be centers of learning and culture, and there'd be an overflowing of healing, right? Because they were often teachers and doctors and so on. The villagers would come and produce an incredible amount of food and nourishment. There'd be safety and so on. Well, we can look at our local parishes and think of the same thing and go, well, if I'm living here for this time period or for the rest of my life, I don't just have a calling to just simply pay taxes and try to get through my 30-year mortgage for just this building. I'm called to be someone who's taking action here. And that's part of that story that we're talking about. So we show up on our Sunday parish and we go, I don't know anybody. Maybe I just moved to this area. Or maybe I've been phoning it in for the last 30 years that I've been here because I've been trying to get out of this crummy old town, right? And get away from it. And now I'm back or I can never leave, whatever it is. So you go a total, what is his name? Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life, right? It was a daily sacrifice for him to be there. But he turned it around. He found a way to work, to bring, to raise up and to lift people, to fight a bad guy. He took a stand, he started taking steps, and he told a better story. And by the end of that movie, by the end of his life, he left that place so much better than he found it. He marshaled armies of friends, absolutely loved what he was trying to do. And if he'd never been there, well, that's the whole point of that movie. We get a picture of what life would have been like if he'd not taken a stand and taken steps to share the story he believed in. I think every single one of us can have that same sort of thing. And I love that quote. What is that fantastic quote from Ecclesiastes that you've got?
Yeah, it's from chapter 4, right? Just talking about exactly this, right? Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up the other. But woe to the one who is alone and falls and does not have another to help. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? And though one might prevail against another, two will withstand one. A threefold cord is not quickly broken.
The mind of Christ is calling you to do something heroic. But being a hero is not a massive, impossible thing.
Yeah.
It is something very simple and very practical. And yes, it takes guts and it's going to take effort, but you can do it. Any man can do it because you're wired to do it. Yes, find your own way. Find the stories that move you. Find the movies that move you, because not everybody's going to be a gladiator Stan. Some of us are going to be other kinds of men. But the thing is, being a man is good. It is good to be you, and it is good that you are here, and it is good that we are together to do a good thing, right? That moves me. I think it moves a lot of men.
The more than you want, less than you fear, right?
Mm.
Yeah, it would be great if the world was a perfect place. It's not. What's it going to take to change it? Well, more than I want, less than I fear, right? And then I think the other thing to really consider is start trying again, just between your own ears, right? In your own mind, think about what we can do. How often did Christ think, okay, here's my to-do list for the day. Here's what I've got to get done. Here's who I need to talk to. Here's who I need to heal. He never says anything about that. He says, I come to do the will of the Father. The Father and I are one. over and over again. It is a joint effort, right? Christ never conceives of himself. Never might be an exaggeration, right? I'm not being theologically precise here, but Jesus is on a mission with, right? With the Father. And then, the beautiful prayer during the Last Supper that's recorded in John's Gospel, right? What does he pray? He prays for unity, right? That they may be one as you and I, Father, are one. As the Father sends me, so I send you. It's always a we thing with God, right? Which should kind of be a no-duh thing for us because God's a Trinity, right? We know that. It's literally never an individual effort, right? Three persons, one God.
Right. Right.
And so I think it's a big piece of it is, again, if we are going to adopt the mind of Christ, if we're going to think about our relationships as Christ did, our thinking should always be, what can we do? Again, first and foremost with God, but then, hey, what can we do beyond that, right? Again, whether it is me and my spouse, right? Whether it is me and my family, what do we as a family do? Are we just a collection of people who happen to be located, between the same four walls for 8 hours a night? And then we're off completely individual the rest of the day. And then you start to learn, hey, what can we do as a parish, or what can we do as a group of men within the parish, right? I mean, there's a certain sense of truth where you look at some of the challenges a parish might be facing and you say, I can't fix that. Of course not. You're not supposed to fix that. We are supposed to fix that, right? Like there is a communal call to accomplish whatever it is that needs to be accomplished, right? And so I think that's a big one. Again, it seems like a small change, but the language we use really shapes so much of how we behave and how we approach things. If we can start thinking in we, I think that starts to make a big difference. So when you see that need at a parish, or when Father says, gosh, this is a real problem, rather than tallying up my little meager pile of resources and saying, Father, I don't know that I can do much about that, you say, great, we can handle that. Because if your we can't, your we is just not big enough, right? You need to get some more people into your circle. I mean, that's how any community ever has thrived, right? The four of us, yeah, we don't know how to shoe horses or farm or whatever. So we got to find somebody who does, and then say, hey, here's what we bring to the table. Here's what you bring to the table. If we all do this together, we're all enriched by it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so just shifting that mindset, not to think about, hey, what can I do? How can I help the parish? But start thinking about, what can we do?
Yeah.
Once you've caught that vision, now you also have something to talk to the man about, right? Hey, Joe, I'm Chris. What do you do? Hey, how long have you been with the parish? Listen, here's this vision. I
Yeah.
can't do it.
Exactly.
I'm not asking you to do it, but maybe we could do it. And if not, then who do
Agreed.
we need to ask?
Yep. Oh, that's fantastic. I hadn't considered that, but that's actually even more helpful way to go about this. I love the line of thought, which is, if you want to get something done, find a friend. Don't do it on your own. Find somebody, anybody. And when I say friend, it means somebody who believes in the idea, wants to sacrifice and work with you to get it done. And so you might have to interview or vet a ton of different people before you find the right friend. Don't just do it with anybody, or you end up with Steve Jobs and Wozniak having a split over a multi-billion-dollar whatever. Find the right friend, obviously. Or the definition of a movement is not somebody getting up on a soapbox with a megaphone. A definition of a movement is when the next guy from the crowd steps up and stands alongside you and goes, hey, this guy, yeah, right? Now you got a movement going. So imagine you were to go up to, like, you join a parish, or you want to start doing something new, and you go up to Father and you go, hey, what's a list of stuff that needs to be done? Specifically around men. Okay, obviously there's women doing all kinds of things. You got deacons doing all kinds of things. You've got whatever. But if there's a gap that men are not doing anything about, what is it? And maybe it's not Father, it could be whoever else at the parish. Maybe they give you a list of stuff, and then you look at that and you go, okay, we're going to need a team. Right. And if you've seen like Rebel Moon, Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon, what is it? 2-part sort of mega whatever. The whole first episode of that whole thing is them just going around, clocking in epic heroes to solve this impossible task and save this tiny village on a farming moon. And the heroes that they bring in, it's each one of them have incredible stories of their own. And so the first part, if your Father comes and whoever it is gives you a list of like, okay, we need all of these sort of specific tasks around men. Okay, now you got a mission. That makes it so much easier to kind of walk around the vestibule headhunting people and go, oh, did you know that there's this thing going on, that we're trying to solve this problem at the parish? You interested in being a part of it at all? No? Perfectly fine. They start to go, tell me more. It's like, well, here's what we're trying to accomplish. I'd love to know more about you. What are you good at? What are you interested in? What might you want to contribute to this mission? Right. And then, of course, share your own. Here's what I've been up to. Here's what I think I'd like to accomplish. And I'm looking for people who want to do the same sort of thing. That's so much different to walking up to someone and asking them to commit themselves to something before they know what are you doing. You're instead walking up with a story. Here's a goal. I'm putting together a team. I don't know anything about you. You might like someone who'd want to be on this team, right? Tell me about that tat. That tat looks like it's got a story, you know, or that hat or that pickup truck that you drive or the way that you did something in mass. That you look like you've got a story in there. Like, what is it? I'd like to know a little bit more about you if you want to share. If not, I'll leave you alone. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you're walking up with a story, not just like, hey, men's group. We don't really do too much. Or if you don't even have a men's group, like, hi, did you see the game last night? Yeah. Okay. Well, there's no mission. There's no story. You're not taking a stand for anything.
Right.
Like if you just get that little list, or even
Right.
if you propose it to Father, like, Father, we need to start a men's group so that we can revive the men in this, because we need to bring our sons on board and we need to, give our daughters something to date in about 10 years or whatever.
Well, I think it circles back to that stretch, right? Like nobody's like, Mann, do you want to go climb the hill next to the parish? It's 100 whole feet tall. You guys are like, no, that's dumb. But you're like, hey,
People
who
will
wants
see me.
right? Who wants to take a mountain climbing expedition on your next, spring break or whatever it is? Bring your son. It's like, oh, that's something that would be meaningful to accomplish, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
you do have to pitch it out there a little bit, right? There's definitely a sweet spot where it can't be, you know, can't be too hard, right? You can't go walk up to one guy and be like, hey, you and I, we're gonna turn this whole thing around. But you also can't be like, hey, we're gonna have a soda,
Yeah.
chat about the game. Like,
And then let's fast forward like a couple of years after. Let's say you've started doing something like this, right? You've started creating a list of tasks that only men can accomplish, for example, specifically at your parish, and you're starting to muster and assemble some Avengers together to get this task done. And it's giving you an excuse to keep inviting men together to like a beer night or a cigar night or a men's movie night or whatever it is. And then you're challenging them to continue coming back each Saturday to build up their masculinity. And maybe there's like a hiking trail championship thing, or like I said, I love the idea of an axe throwing night. What guy isn't interested in that? Like men will bring their sons and granddads for something like that. So now imagine 5 years down the line, right? You've started doing this. You actually shared a story. I don't even know what conversation we've had anymore, but you talked about, I think you were going through something very difficult.
yeah, I know what you're talking about. I think so. Yeah, it was a very challenging moment. I'd just gotten some really tough news, and this was back in college, and we had a men's group. It was the King's Men, apostolate out of Philadelphia, and we had a little group of the 4 or 5 of us, and yeah, it was a moment where I was very blessed to know exactly what to do. Right, I did. I sent out a group text to the whole group, and I said, "Listen, I need." And it sounded really, badass, which doesn't hurt. I need an emergency meeting of the King's Men, and I think one of the guys wasn't able to make it, which is again, it's not like I'm truly expecting everyone to drop their lives because I have a need, but these are my brothers. These are the people I had to reach out to. And even the guy who couldn't come did reach out, and gave what he could, right? But that group of brothers, came together, and if they had not been there that evening, I don't know what would have happened, but it would have been a lot worse,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there have been times in my life too when difficult things have happened, bad things have happened, and I didn't have that brotherhood. I didn't have somebody to reach out to. And that's a scary place to be, I mean, that's where not to be overly dramatic, but that's where newspaper headlines come from, right? That's where
Yeah.
obituaries
Yeah.
come from is when everything is getting squeezed out of you and you have no one to turn to. And so and again, none of them did. Again, we think of heroism and movies and moving the world and all this stuff. They just showed up. None of them fixed the problem. None of them were able to take the bad news away. None of them could do any of that. And I never expected that of any of them, but they were there, right? They just showed up and they listened. And that was it, right? It's again, it's not hard. It's hard, but it's not hard, right?
Yeah. Well, until you can clear out the stinking thinking, the overwhelm, I think it makes sense. A hero takes a stand for something, takes a step towards doing it, and then tells a better story that can involve more people. Similar to what you just described, you showed up for me at a time when I was going through a rough spot, and I've I don't have a lot of people that I can turn to. So that state that you talked about, being very alone and very abandoned or whatever, probably through some of my fault or just through moving away or just losing contact with people. And I didn't have people that I could turn to about the specific kind of problem that I had. Young married man like yourself, right? And I was going through a rough spot, and I was probably going to say really dumb or worse stuff to make things worse. And I'm like, I need somebody at the very least just to witness me, right? Just to witness the fact that I'm not insane, I'm not alone or whatever. And even if I'm wrong and I can't see it, is there somebody that I can talk to? A lot of men who don't even have that. So it's like in the good times, work on building it up because there's dark times that will come.
Right. You
But
can't
when your
start
back is
digging the
against the
well
wall.
when you're thirsty.
Yeah, there you go. And so I remember texting you going, hey, do you have 8 minutes for me? And this is something that's part of our heroic men, pledge, is this idea of being able to tell someone, I'm going to pray for you every single day for the rest of our life, rest of my life, rest of your life. And if you ever text me and go, hey, I just need 8 minutes of your time, that's a code for, I know you need help. I will do everything I can to drop it, take your call. And then you did that for me. And I remember thinking, I don't know if I want to call you because I don't know if you're busy or whatever. And you straight up said, you let me make that decision. And I'll let you know if I can't take the call because I'm like washing dishes or whatever, or, deep in some difficult project or something. But we've already made this sort of pact of friendship. Like we're going to be here for each other. We don't have all the answers, but at the very least, we're here to listen. And sometimes I think that's all a man needs because there's not a lot of people who are prepared to listen to the difficulties that a man goes through, largely because we don't know how to talk about it, don't know how to share it. We've never been conditioned or trained to do that. That's like I say, men solve problems by standing shoulder to shoulder. You got a problem, you go fishing and you don't talk for 4 hours. Shut up.
Right.
Scare the fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And confession doesn't quite cut it either. It does take an actual brotherhood. And again, you don't always expect the answer. Sometimes we solve our own problems just by being able to sit in the presence of somebody else who's got it a little bit more together than we do, or just knowing the fact that we're not alone. That is a massive, massive thing, I think, for a man.
It strikes at that root temptation, right? Again, the isolation piece, right? Because again, one of the favorite attacks of the enemy, again, especially for men, is you're the only one. Man, nobody that you know sucks this bad at marriage. Nobody talks to their wife that way. Nobody, whatever, whatever, whatever. And it's like, no, actually, all of us have moments like that, right? And so, like you said, sometimes it's just for someone to see you and they don't have to say anything. They just, hey, I'm still here. I heard that thing that you felt like was just the most shameful thing, and yeah, I get that. I've been there. It's okay. I'm here. And we realize I'm not so alone, right? Like that's the true enemy, right? That's the true attack is that isolation. And so breaking isolation is easy. All you gotta do is stand next to somebody and it's broken.
Yeah. So what kind of broke my heart a bit was, what is it, Goodwill Hunting? And how, oh gosh, what's the name of the actor? I forget the actor. The psychologist,
Robin
psychotherapist looks
Williams.
at, yeah,
Yeah.
Robin Williams looks at the other actor. I'm forgetting the names right now.
We'll call him Matt
And
Damon.
Matt Damon, there you go. And he realizes there's something here. This is somebody who is chronically abandoned, probably because he's so intelligent, he's running up to his own head all the time. And he makes a choice, it's going to hurt. This is going to be hugging a cactus every therapy session moving forward, but we're both going to learn something. And by the end, there's a breakthrough, not because he was able to win out at anything. In fact, he ended up being more vulnerable about his own life, Robin Williams, in that show, than he'd ever been about his relationship and so on. He was challenged on every point as a man. It was humiliating and embarrassing to be in this situation. But he recognized there's a boy here, there's a man here who needs to be witnessed. And then by the end, that the closing moments are so incredibly moving. It just like got me all choked up going, not every man gets this or is afforded this or is able to have it. So if there's a way where we can do this for others, I think that's what a hero does. A hero doesn't wait for permission. A hero doesn't wait for the right time. A hero gets up and does something. If you're convicted of something, you get up and do something about it. And I think that is what separates heroic from just merely men. Plenty of us men, I think, know where we are placed. We'll hold that line and we'll do the minimal amount of good required. Then the heroic is the one who does go above and beyond whatever that little baseline is. And they're not looking for the glory and everything, but they're the kind of person who goes, 3 are better than 1. 2 are better than 1. I need to proactively go find someone to help me accomplish whatever this goal is because it's going to make life better for everybody. And I'm going to leave this place better than I found it.
To kind of sum it all up, I think Corinthians actually gets at this. 1 Corinthians 13. It's the famous passage about love, right? And everyone likes to, love is kind and love is patient, and it kind of gets mushy sometimes depending on who you're talking to. But right at the end of that, if I have prophetic powers, understand mysteries and all knowledge, right? These are superpowers. These are our heroes. I have all faith so as to move mountains. If I'm the most pious person there is, but I do not have love, I'm not. I think that's our call, right? To make it about love, to make it about the actual connections and relationships that happen, right? To take the stand, to take the step, right? In the little things. It's not about moving mountains. It's not about knowing everything, being the best and the brightest. It's about recognizing, hey, there's a guy next to me who's living life just like I am and could maybe use a brother to stand with him. It's that simple. If no man stood alone, like, gosh, the world would be transformed. That starts with the guy whose name you don't know at church. That would be my parting challenge. And it's hard. I've done this sometimes, and like some people just skedaddle, right? Like as soon as you start the last verse of the closing song, they don't even wait for it to finish. Like they're on their way, and you're like, shoot, I wanted to introduce myself, but now they're running away. What do I do? So it's hard. Again, it's hard, but it's not hard. But it's starting there, right? If that's not the opportunity God puts in front of you, don't sweat it, right? If they run off and you don't have a chance, don't stress. Look around. There's still somebody there. Who is it? Say hi. Take that step, right? Leave with a observation, I think, from Paulo Coelho in The Alchemist, right? He says, when somebody takes, and I'm paraphrasing, when somebody takes the first step to achieve their personal legend, right? The mission for which they're on earth, the whole universe conspires for them to be successful, right? And he even comments, sometimes we just call this beginner's luck, but the whole universe is ordered and designed by the same Lord. And so when you put yourself in alignment with him, there are powers, there are things happening that extend so far beyond the basics of the fact that all you did was shake a man's hand, right? The Lord takes that, the Holy Spirit takes that and works amazing wonders with it. So we just have to say yes to the one step, and
I like
and
that.
that's the beginning.
What a fantastic quote. I need to look that up. Could you repeat that? The personal legend?
Yeah, I could probably find it, but it's something to the effect of when a person takes the first step towards achieving their personal legend, the whole universe conspires for their success.
That's so motivating. I think that ties in beautifully with one of the other quotes that you've got here, and I'll close with that for me. Philippians 2, 3-4. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, which I think is everything we've talked about in this episode, this conversation, but in humility, so being grounded and being real and not being puffed up. Regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. So you may need a lot out of life, but it's the fastest shortcut to never getting anything you need is walking around, cap in hand, begging everybody to fill your cap because you're a victim. Please, I need more. Please help me. How many men do you know act like that? Versus show up gift in hand. How many men like to receive a gift? Anybody, really, not just men, right? But if you show up gift in hand rather than cap in hand, and what better gift than giving somebody a better story to do something greater with their life, to build a better personal legend? What a fantastic gift to offer somebody else, to offer them the chance to activate or to become their personal legend or to start a life that is their legend. What a wonderful way to end. So there we go. We've talked about in this series or in this trilogy, right? The mind of Christ is not an academic kind of thing, but is this idea that we're the son of the Father. We're born into a world where we're able to take action. So we've got there's a sort of superhero powers. Then there's this sacramental worldview where you can do things with these powers. And then you need brotherhoods and you need a team to accomplish the goals that you set for yourself. And you're not always granted goals from on high. Sometimes you got to make them up and then you do your best. And then you realize, oh, that was the wrong one. Course correct, do it better. Doing it with a team means you can course correct faster. So mind of Christ is probably a lot greater than everything else that we've covered in these conversations. But as far as men trying to be heroic, well, this is how we are convicted. This is what makes sense to us. Hopefully it makes sense to you. And it's something that is helpful. So say in our Father for us. God bless, man.